Just a little tea going by. I got my masala chai. Okay. Ooh. I don't know what y'all just did.
Do you guys like horseradish?
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your eardrums. It was a beautiful day off in the neighborhood. You know what's crazy about this neighborhood and just Indianapolis in general, man? The gentrification here is too real. Okay, that's where I am right now. I'm in Indianapolis at my grandparents' house where I grew up. The gentrification is too real. You see all kinds of colonizers moving into the neighborhood now. Indianapolis is only like 12% black, and most of the minority population lives between here and this is the east side and Hallville. And you couldn't used to pay a white person to come to this neighborhood. Now, boy, that's all you see. I used to live in Broad Ripple, man. I can't even find parking in Broad Ripple now. They done changed the name, but a skate park used to be called Major Taylor. One of the only places named after a black person in this town. They changed the name. It's not called Major Taylor anymore. We still call it that. But I'm real Mr. Rogers like with this tea. All right. Anyway, let's get into some plants. Let me stop this rant. Here we go. There go to Robin again. That boy named Dick Grayson. Look, you see a robin? That's an American robin right there. You see? Oh, all right. You could be Jason Todd then. He keep flying away from me. That's so sad. You know what's wild about this rose bush? This rose bush, older than me. God dang. It ain't no thorns. Well, it's kind of some thorns showing up. So it's like it's almost the end of April right now in Indianapolis. So even though it's mid-spring, believe it or not, it just got done snowing like a week ago. And people say climate change doesn't exist. But as you can see, the frost really didn't do much to this rose bush this year. This thing is kind of just chilling. But speaking of the rose family, this is our cherry tree. It's a black cherry, Prunus serratina. I'm tripping. I can't pronounce things all of a sudden. Prunus serratina. It's a black cherry. And I said speaking of the rose family because black cherry is in Rosaceae. If I can find a flower, I could show you. Now, as you can see, even though this tree is pretty old relative to me, I'm in my 20s. This tree actually isn't that old for a cherry tree. And how you can tell is because the bark is still in its primary state. I mean, I guess it has a little bit of secondary growth on the bark. The bark doesn't really start to mature much until over 10 years of life. Now, this tree is over 10 years old, but the bark is just kind of starting to mature. And what happens is it gets darker and it gets real rough. As you can see, the bark is still relatively smooth on this tree. That indicates a young tree. As I'm looking for the flowers, oh, you know what? Bet. Here we go. Check this out. So this is how you could tell this is a rose, or not a rose, but in the rose family. All right, if my camera zoom in on these flowers, you see these five petals. All right, 1 2 3 or 1 2 3 4 5. All right, and then you got all of these numerous stamens in the center. All right, numerous stamens. We're gonna say like numerous is like 11 plus. All right, for these stamens. Okay, and they're all bunched up in the center like that, kind of fuzzy. And it's got 5 sepals on it too. Okay, you can see that 5 sepals. All right, that's how you can tell this is in the rose family, Rosaceae. All right, similar to apples, apricots. I think even strawberries are in the rose family, even though strawberries don't grow on trees like cherries do. Now this plant is actually, ooh, and we got some buds too, boy. Now I'm surprised these cherries survived the frost, the snow coming in as late as it did this year. But we look like we got quite a few buds. I might have to stick around this summer. make it do what it do. Now this cherry tree is real cool, man, because these Prunus serratinas are what's known as a pioneer species. All right, and that means that these will be some of the earlier species to create a forest. All right, in a previously, I won't say uninhabitable, but less than normally inhabitable environment. These trees are mostly shade intolerant. They like full sun, unlike a lot of the deciduous plants here. And so they'll be some of the first to populate an area, so the other trees that prefer more shade can also start to populate that area, if that makes sense. And they also can tolerate pretty minute soil conditions, if that makes sense. So yeah, man, Prunus serratina. Why can I not talk today? It's kind of early out. But yeah, it's a black cherry tree. Now I wasn't even planning to speak on these, but I ain't cut the grass today, so it's pretty lit out here right now as far as all of these little weed flowers. This is a dog violet. All right, it's common dog violet. And these kind of grow like weeds. We didn't even plant these, but I mean they're pretty flowers, but they're kind of invasive a little bit. Let me see if I could zoom in on this dog violet. You see that? Kind of radially symmetrical flower. There's not really much to say about these flowers, honestly. They just kind of there for decoration. I guess butterflies do like these violets. They're kind of butterfly food, but other than that, I mean, we can keep it moving for real. Actually, you know what? Before I go, I want to talk about these real quick. I really need to cut the grass. My grandma going out here and whoop my ass. So this right here is a red dead nettle, not Red Dead Redemption, motherfucker. Red dead nettle. So just call it dead nettle because it almost looked like a stinging nettle. You know, stinging nettles not necessarily being in the same family. I believe stinging nettles are Urataceae. This red dead nettle is actually part of the Lamaceae family, meaning it's more closely related to mints. And you can tell it's Lamiaceae in the mint family because of those opposite leaves, okay, and that square stalk. All right, you can always tell a mint because it's got a square stalk, okay, like for real, like square, and then it has opposite leaves. So the leaves come in twos, okay, boom, 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 opposite leaves. You can kind of see the flower. I don't know if I can really zoom in on the flower with this camera. Hold on, let me try. I'm gonna try. Just cause I like y'all. I'm gonna try. If you can barely see that, it's got that hood-like petal on there. Okay. I want to see if I can zoom in on it. For a matter of fact, here's another specimen. I can show y'all a little bit better. All right, so you see that kind of zygomorphic flower right there. Zygomorphic meaning it's not necessarily symmetrical all around, but it's symmetrical one way. You could bisect it and it'd be like a mirror image. All right, obviously the flower is, where's my finger? Right here. Okay, you get this hood-like petal. Yeah, man, this is deep. Now, what I wanted to show y'all, this plant might not necessarily be mature enough to have it yet. Oh, yeah, you can kind of see it. All right, so the reason it kind of reminds one of a stinging nettle is because it has these hairs at the base, okay? Now, stinging nettles have these hairs, but as the name suggests, the hairs are mild irritants. Now, these hairs are not irritants. These hairs are to help bees pollinate and also to help bees get nectar. So these hairs serve a different function than on stinging nettles, but because they resemble nettles to a small degree, they are called red dead nettles. So yeah, that's that. Now let me get out here and cut this grass for my grandma take her chancla off.